Hey guys, and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 3rd of October 2013. Now, in today's news, we have a whole bunch of hotfixes for just 5.4 in general, but especially for the Siege of Orgrimmar. There are some class ones, I may flash them up on the screen or something like that, but just, go look at the hotfixes yourself if you need your specific class information. We also have some blue tweets, and a little bit of talk about the channel and where I'm bringing things, in light of just the poll I got back from you guys and a few other things. Anyway, let's get into the news. So since the hotfixes don't really apply to everyone, I'm just going to talk about the tweets first and the channel, and then we'll round off the show with the hotfixes. Now, so the first one was that there was a lot of talk about leveling up, and the fact that all of your raid gear, which you've worked so hard for, basically gets replaced within a few zones. And a lot of people were saying that it sort of invalidates character progression, like from the previous expansion. But really, I don't think this is a problem, and there was one of the guys basically said, I don't think it's a problem, you raided last expansion, so your bonus in the new one is that the few zones are easy, and that you had all that fun raiding in the previous expansion. And actually, this is what Ghostcaller said he agreed with, that's their design philosophy, and it's also what I agree with. You see, it gets to be a problem when a raider ignores all rewards up to the next raid. That means that it's very old, and there's none of that fun gear progression while questing. And also, when doing a new expansion's gear, they can put in some new cool leveling sets and stuff like that, so it is nice to see all those things. Now, of course, if you do go in with full raid gear, you are definitely going to last a little bit longer, and to give people, I suppose, a little bit more flexibility, they've implemented the heirloom weapons from Garrosh, which will actually work up to the next level cap, which is really good. Now, another thing, someone was saying that basically one of the reasons that LFR is so toxic is because it's easy, and that if it was hard, people would be forced to make it work. Now, in response, the Blues said that this is a nice sentiment, but they've just found that people just bail instead of actually making the matchmaking work. And this is definitely true, because the thing with LFR is you have no commitment to the other people there, and of course you are spending your own free time, and do you really want to spend your free time dealing with other people being stupid, and the only way to succeed is to actually help them and make them get better? That's not really what you signed up for. You signed up to go in a group, kill some bosses, get some loot, and it'd be nice and easy. If you want to be helping people out and, sort of growing as a collective, then you want to be doing flex or normal raiding, not LFR. And they even went on to say that while it is still, obviously in a pug, it's still very likely that people will drop out if things go wrong. But it is far, far less likely than it is in LFR. In LFR, if people, if stuff's going bad, they just bail and bail and bail. There's times when the LFR group that you finish a run with is completely different from the one that you start it with. So it is a bit of a problem. I just think it's inherent to LFR. In any game like World of Warcraft that requires mechanics to be executed, it's just not going to work as well in a kind of LFR matchmaking format. At least not without the difficulty being massively, massively nerfed until it's basically meaningless. Now, another tweet was about Nurashen, and I'm sure a lot of you have tried to kill him and noticed that maybe the enrage timer felt a bit strict. Now, this was an interesting thing, because Nurashen's enrage timer is actually really not that much of a problem if you do the solo component right. Basically, a lot of this fight's enrage timer, people think they're doing right, because they do push the boss below 50%, they do all that stuff correct, but they mess up in sort of their execution of it. They could get everyone purified in Nurashen and still die to the berserk time because they just didn't purify everyone in an efficient way. It's interesting, it's one of those fights that does require a little bit of thought beforehand. Funny though, that and Shadow of Pride are actually two of my favourite fights of this tier. I love them both. I don't really know why, but there's just something about them. They're kind of simple, but they have nice, interesting mechanics. They require you to be alert. And I just think that when you discuss with your team and you come up with a new strategy and it's just way, way, way more, I guess, efficient or something, you can really see that on how quickly you get the boss down, and it's just really, I suppose, just really gratifying. I don't know, I really like Nurashen. So yeah, apparently some people have problems with that. Now, I am going to eventually get onto the hotfixes, but first I just want to talk about some channel things. So in light of that recent poll, the two new things I'm doing are the Q&A, which has actually been popular to the point where it surprised me. I didn't think it would go that well. So it's nice, it's pretty gratifying to know that people want to hear me ramble about my opinions about some questions and stuff like that. Now, in terms of format, I suppose a lot of Q&A shows, they would maybe do a minute a question, do 10 questions, and I'm not going to do that because at the end of the day I won't get 10 questions a day. I think everyone knows that. But also, there's a lot of questions that can be expanded upon, and when you force yourself into, I suppose, a relatively a relatively, like, short... Yeah, when you put yourself in a relatively short format, what it means is you can't really give the questions justice, and that's something that I do want to do. So yeah, that's why at the minute I'm pretty happy with the Q&A format. Now, the most recent one, the second Q&A that I did, not the greatest. It had to be a little bit quick. That's just because of the day it was. But my ideal thing would be most Q&As would be like the first one that I did, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, in quite a bit of depth, stuff like that. I think that's the best way to do it. The next one's already recorded and I'm pretty happy with it. It's about... Asker, I'll give you a spoiler. It's about, like, leading a raid, not leading, I suppose just ways to improve a raid team, tips for starting a raid team, keeping it going, having it successful. It's a good 10 minutes of chat and I really am pretty happy with it. Now next up we have Raid Chat, and it's not the most, I suppose, creative of names, but I've never really been up for making the most creative names because I'm terrible at that kind of thing. So yeah, Raid Chat's basically going to be post-commentated raid stuff. I'm pretty happy with it actually. I did the first one on Malkorok, and well, nobody's told me it's awful yet, so I'm going to take that as a good thing. I'm going to evolve the format as we go on. Since it's just, the topic is general raiding, I can be a lot more flexible, so there'll be sort of boss commentary, maybe if I see some cool trash, or like a good example, say the Horde on trash. It was pretty hard at the start, I'd maybe do like a bit of a guidey thing to that. But yeah, in general, it's a nice platform to talk about raiding, and I do enjoy raiding. But anyway, that's really it for this. I'm going to move on to the hotfixes. So there's been a whole bunch of hotfixes. These were put on the night of October the 2nd. And I'm just going to go through the ones that really matter. And this is actually pretty great for a lot of you. They've fixed a lot of LFR Wing 2, which means it should be a good bit easier. Now, for the Timeless Isles, now they've changed bloody coins, so they're only awarded when defeating level 90 players. And they've also made a whole bunch of items that were bind and pick up, no longer tradable, like Burdens of Eternity and stuff like that. Apparently, people were actually, they were trading Burdens of Eternity and Reigns of the Thundering Onyx Cloud Serpent for money, which is kind of crazy. So there's that, then a whole bunch of class things, which I'm not going to get into, and just some other random, sort of inconsequential stuff. But what really is the meat of this is the Siege of Orgrimmar fixes. So, most of these I think are for normal, but I'm going to go through all of them anyway, especially these really interesting LFR ones. Hopefully it'll improve things for people. So for the Fallen Protector, Suntender Heart Shadowward Bay no longer has a slight delay before applying its damage. Nurashen, they fixed an issue where the Amalgam of Corruption's Unleashed Anger was not always hitting the tank, and they've also fixed an issue when its Blind Hatred may hit players who are not in the beam. Also for Galakras, they've made it so that Galakras can no longer be damaged or debuffed while landing in Phase 2. Now, for Wing 2 things, and the Korkron Dark Shaman. So, on Raid Finder difficulty, they've changed it so that Wavebreaker Cardus' Falling Ash, that's the big, kind of like the big ball in the big red circle, it now only does 200,000 damage, which is down from 9,999 damage. So hopefully that should kill a whole bunch, well, less idiots. That said, they do deserve to fail, but unfortunately, they do bring down everyone else with them. And also the Foul Slime's Foulness Aura, which is the sort of damage aura that it does to anything near them, now deals 30,000 damage per second, which is down from 50,000. And finally they fix an issue where the placement of Earthbreaker Hrome's Ashen Wall was not always perpendicular to the direction where he's facing. I actually think that's a bug we experienced a few times, when pretty much Hrom would put up his Ashen Wall in very unexpected places, and it would just wipe the raid, which was not fun. Now, another big one, General Nazgrim. So, on Raid Finder, they have reduced his health by 10%, and his Ravager now hits for 200,000 less damage. He now only gains 1 rage when struck in defensive, which is down from 2. He gains 2 rage for each target struck by Heroic Shockwave Aftershocks, that is down from 3. He gains 2 rage from Korkron War Banner, which is down from 3 as well. And the Korkron War Shaman's Earth Shield now does a 2% heal, down from a 5% heal. And finally, the Empowered Chain Heal that they do is 4% maximum health, down from 10. Now, that health reduction on Nazgrim is only 10%, but the thing is, this will probably line up better with Berserker Stance or something like that, so it should make the final kill easier. Just for the sake of completeness, we'll just quickly run through the other ones. For Siegecrafter Black Fuse, yes, for Siegecrafter, players are now immune to Superheated when being pulled off the conveyor belt, and the Shockwave missiles no longer hit players that are exiting a transport pipe, so that's all good. For the Paragons of the Klaxi, Karos the Locust will now always jump back down from the platform after using Hurl Amber. Kaztik the Manipulator's Hungry Kunchongs, something like that, should no longer be able to gain Thick Shell while using Devour on a mesmerized player. And finally, Hizek, the Stormbreaker, or Stormkeeper, Swarmkeeper, I don't know, whatever the hell, should no longer fire a beam at the target encased in amber while casting aim. God damn it, Paragons of the Galaxy is fucking ridiculous. It's got 9 bosses, each of them has, like, the complexity of a normal boss, and you have to take 3 at a time. It's crazy. And finally for Garrosh, he should no longer use Desecrate against players that are on a balcony. The Farseer Wolf Riders will no longer continuously attempt to cast Ancestral Chain Heal if they're being hit by an Iron Star before entering combat. And the Kor'kron Iron Stars now properly deal damage to the Kor'kron Warbringers and Farseer Wolf Riders on 25 Heroics, so I'm sure that will affect about one of you, maybe? Probably not. So that's really it for today's show. Not the biggest thing in news-wise, but that nerf to LFR Wing 2 is absolutely ginormous now that I think about it. Hopefully it'll up the completion rates a little bit, because they do seem to be at least, I'd say definitely significantly lower than they should be. I've seen pretty much all my guild like just bitching and being angry at the thing, and I suppose it is fair enough. It does seem like LFR Wing 2 this time around has been wasting a lot of people's time. But anyway, that's it for the show. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.